Caught wife cheating after 15 years. M45 been married for 15 years to wife 44. We have 2 kids and I don't know how to really start this, so here we go. Me and my wife were childhood friends, not like we were close cause we really didn't notice each other much until high school after mutual friends started dating, and we saw each other a lot more after that. At first we were friends and then after I grew a pair of nuts I asked her out and she said yes. A little confession: I had a crush on her before the friends started dating, but I kept it to myself. We started dating out last 2 years of high school and planned to go to the same college, but after figuring out that her school didn't offer the same program I had to head to another one. Should have seen a problem when the school I picked had her same program, but she told me that it wasn't a place she seen herself. We tried the long distance for a while but I really didn't work, so we called it a quit while we were in college. After a few years and I graduated from school, we surprisingly bumped into each other during a visit back home. Conversation sparked up a passion of interest, so we stayed in contact, talking almost every day and reigniting each other passion into each other, and it wasn't long where she had moved into my apartment. It did seem pretty fast now that I think about, but I can't lie, it just felt right at the moment. My career was going well and she was just about to graduate for her degree, so everything seemed right. Now during this time she had a male friend that I called him and he was extremely attractive. Like, you know, this guy is a player and I kinda didn't trust him. Okay, I'll be honest, I didn't trust him at all and I hated that my girl was his friend, and we had many conversations about this and she promised me, damn near swore to God himself, that she had no romantic feeling for this guy and they were strictly friends, and that if I really trusted her that I wouldn't worry, believing that I should trust her and know that she wouldn't do anything to sabotage what we are building. Now let's fast forward. At this point my work and home life is competing with each other. The kids need me for this, but I have this and that to do by the end of the week, and I'm not gonna lie, I made my mistake maybe leaning too hard on her or not telling her how much I appreciated her, but I always thought it was implied. So one day I come home from work and as I walked in I hear her laughing and giggling. As I head into the kitchen I notice she was cleaning the dishes and him was sitting at the island talking to her. As I walked into the room a slight quietness entered with me, almost like I was the guest in my house, but they both quickly greeted me, not suspiciously but enough to fill the silence. Now me and him wasn't friends, but we had have a conversation on my uncomfortable feeling about him and my wife, and it wasn't long or combative, it was short and simple. Looking back now he probably got a good laugh at men. But after a few minutes he left and it was me and my wife, and now at this point I don't know if she was already with him or she was just mad at me for not helping out a lot. But when I went in to get close to her or show her some intimate touch, she rejected me with "I'm tired, had the kids all day." Or she would start a random argument about something that was so small. This has been happening for the last 6 months until I just got to the point and asked, "Is there someone else?" And this will hell broke loose. She called me every name in the book and even brought up some insecurities that I had, and if that wasn't a sign, she didn't talk to me for about a week after that. At this point I knew there was something going on, so I knew I had to figure it out, so I booked her a spa day on my day off and made sure she was completely pampered, and while she left the house me and an electrician buddy placed small cameras around the house. Now, before you say, I wouldn't have done that, I would have left, and you're right, but I was praying that I was going too far. I was hoping that I'll record for a month or 3 and see that I didn't get anything and then know that I'm a dumbass with a great woman that loves me. She came home smiling and even gave me some attention. I thought that maybe the spa day was all she needed, some time to wind down. It was almost like back in the day while it lasted. So after 2 months of recording I didn't find anything, and I was so happy, feeling like a dumbass for putting these cameras in my house, so I stopped watching the cameras for a while. They were just there, completely became out of sight out of mind. Until one day I get a notification on my phone telling me that something in the house was ajar or something like that, so although I checked the cameras since I can see if one of the kids had broke something, as I flicking through the camera I stopped on my front door noticing a black pair of shoes next to another pair, as it didn't look like none of my shoes, just from what I can see. So something in me said go to the bedroom camera. As I look at that camera there was no one in there and the bed was still made. For some odd reason I just kept flicking through the camera, and then I caught my wife coming out the laundry room with him behind her. She fixed her clothing and he was buckling his pants. My heart shattered as I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Everything inside of me wanted to go home and kill both of them. I'm not gonna lie, but I thought about my kids and how losing both parents won't benefit them, so I shut everything in my office, and ashamed to say I cried. Can't say how long, but long enough where my eyes felt like they were swollen, and after that I knew what I had to do. So as I'm heading home I'm trying to compose myself for this argument that I know was coming. I called a friend of the family and asked if the kids could stay over for a while so that we can talk. They agreed, and as I arrived home My wife was cooking and I can still smell that food like a prisoner. Last meal. As I sat down it was a silence. As I looked at her I pulled out my phone and showed her the video of her and him coming out the laundry room, and all I said why at first she tried to lie even with video evidence, but after a while pursuing it she finally broke and told me the truth that her and him has been sleeping together the last 3 years we've been married and she could be pregnant with his child, and that she's sorry I had to find out like this, but since it all out she wants a divorce. It hit me hard cause I came from a broken family and never wanted my kids to feel the struggle of separated family, but after hearing that I got up and went upstairs as I felt defeated. I've worked my ass off and did all I could to place this family on a pedestal and it felt like someone just kicked it from under me. I wanted to harm myself so bad when I figured that out, but God works in mysterious ways cause my daughter called me and told me that she loved me, not in those words but it was what I needed to get better. My girlfriend doesn't know I know she plans on leaving me and taking our daughter. A little context. We're both 21. We have a daughter named Allie. We had her on accident at 19. We were only about 2 years into dating, but we've made it work out pretty well. I make solid money, and I'm about over a year from applying for my full license for my career. She has been doing online school for law degree. I'm a big racing guy. It ran in my family, as my dad and uncle were as well. My dad passed away in an accident when I was 13, so he never got to meet our daughter. However, I got to keep a couple of his old cars and have been working on them for years. I've taken them to the local track and I've even do street racing in certain areas out around me. As ridiculous as it sounds, he died a couple weeks before the newest installment of the Fast and Furious, Furious 7. He loved those movies, and so did I. I guess if anyone knows the legacy around that movie, it does mean a lot to me, even with how ridiculous it is. My girlfriend has never been a big fan of the racing. She's always understood the importance it has held to me, so she has tried to work with it, but her best friend is in a long-term relationship with my best friend. My best friend got into an accident over the summer racing and flipped his vehicle. He survived and mostly came out alright outside some bruises and a concussion, but my girlfriend was adamant that I quit doing it. This sparked an ongoing issue with us, which while I understand her concern, I haven't been in anything nearly close to an accident. I work on all my own stuff so I know exactly what I'm doing. And she has reasonably said I can't bank on that forever. Which is fair, but I've communicated I'm not ready to give that part of my life up yet. I have so much I want to still do and accomplish that my dad never did. I love running into his old buddies and talking to them. Telling me how I'm just like him and how proud he'd be. I raced a couple weeks ago, everything went well and fine. However, my best friend reached out to me to tell me that my girlfriend planned on leaving me around New Year's. This was a conversation between her and her best friend, which was relayed back to me by my best friend, which he wasn't supposed to tell me. I do feel conflicted. I get her concern, it was heightened when Allie was born. I know she wants me to let it go, and her concerns are valid. I definitely don't want to make her out to be a villain. I just, really don't think I can right now. Love my girls too, and I love spending time with them. They're well cared for and like I said, we are doing much better than most parents at our age. At the core of me though I really wanted to be just like my dad. Hell, I even want to explore bike racing. It's hard to let that go for the reasons I've given. However, I never wanted to be an absent parent, because I know what it's like to not have that parent. I guess I have around a month to really think about. That feels terrifying. Obviously keeping it to myself, I haven't really talked about it with anyone, so I'm just looking to put that out there. Thanks for reading. I tricked mentally ill and poor people into doing degrading stuff on camera, exactly as the title says. A couple of years ago, I was heavily into cocaine, so my friends and I would stay up all night just talking to each other in my apartment for many nights in a row. Most people who have done a lot of drugs know that playing video games and watching movies is really not that fun to do while snorting lines all night. So we started doing a lot of weird things, like this, instead. One night, for some reason we started messing with this mentally ill guy who we went to school with on Facebook who thinks he died when he crashed his car on ecstasy a couple of years back and got a major psychosis from the incident. The guy now fully believes he is dead and makes these weird Facebook rants, telling people he is seeing and talking to angels and demons and that he is dead. One night, we call up the guy, posing as a local newspaper that wants to write an article about him. He and my friend had the strangest conversation ever. He kept the conversation going for almost 2 hours, while I recorded the whole thing as an MP3 on my phone. The next day, I presented the clip to all of my friends, who were totally ecstatic, and we all think it's the funniest thing we have ever heard. We start messing with this guy almost every night after work, writing him as God, making him record weird songs from heaven and hell, making him take weird photos of himself, etc. But after a week of shenanigans, his caretaker or whoever makes him delete his Facebook account because the rants online are getting out of control. After realizing that messing with this guy was funny as shit but that we could no longer do it, we started looking for new victims. First, we start trolling our local high school's Facebook group posing as this pair of fucked up parents, but are eventually found out and kicked. Then we start trolling the local vegans selling horse meat and other stuff, but eventually they make the group private and only members they know personally can join. After that, we started trolling all sorts of local groups on Facebook. To join these local groups, you have to have an account that looks somewhat believable, so we would go on these religious boards and make posts praising God. That shit gets a lot of activity, and just start adding people until we had a ton of friends and the account would look somewhat real. The people most active on these religious boards are people from places in Africa that are very poor. And these people are willing to do anything for a couple of bucks, so we start calling up random strangers that look like they are willing to do anything for money, sending them a bit of cash via Western Union to make them try and do backflips while I record it. The crazy part is that once you send that first dollar, they know that there is more where it's coming from, and you now have your own personal gesture overseas. And they will do literally anything as long as you send them that first bit of cash. So then it became almost like a new addiction for me. I was promising these poor people a big cash prize. Of course, there was no prize if they did what I told them to do on the webcam, so I could record it. The most fucked up part is that I enjoyed doing it and found it hilarious. I used to only do it with friends so we could all laugh at it together, but later I often just sat alone, calling/writing these poor people and making them do weird and degrading stuff on webcam.